Renegade is back. I am re-establishing a connection with you from the depths of deep space, folks. Ready to take on another week. I have emerged once again. My signal has emerged from the dark side of the moon, and I have come to you tonight. I've come to you tonight to keep good on a promise, and to try to fulfill one of my missions that I set up in a previous rant. And folks, I've attempted what some may claim to be the impossible, but I'm excited to get right into it with you. I present to you my informal, conservative quantification of the teacher responsibility mandate, and I'll start going through it immediately because I'm not sure how long this will take. But first on the list of responsibilities, I have instruction, the actual process of teaching or facilitating learning, and I assigned it a value based on the amount that I personally have to teach, or in other words, the amount of time I have students in the classroom, at 270 minutes, or 4.5 hours a day. And I know that value may be low or high, depending on who you may be, or depending on the individual teacher. But I'll move on here. I have the amount of time spent for at school grading. So this is not including anything that the teacher would take home. I have the minute value here at 60 minutes, with it again being many of these values that I'm going to give. The argument can be made that some of those responsibilities can be handled during other time slots here that I'll point out. In other words, the teacher could multitask, but I want to go ahead and continue here. We'll deal with that whole little idea here later. I'll continue. I have non-instructional duties. Again, this is a value that I placed at 20 minutes, based on my personal situation, and I have unplanned personal interactions with students outside the classroom. I gave this a conservative 10 minutes per day, and I think that value could be one of the most underestimated on the entire list. As we reach conclusion later in the rant, keep in mind that so much of these values are calculated on the low end. Just let it sink in, folks, as we progress. So I'll continue here. It says I have quite the list here, folks. I have makeup grading set here in my quantification. This is very conservative. I have it at 10 minutes a day. A teacher dedicating 10 minutes a day to makeup grading is laughable. Sometimes we find ourselves spending much more time than that. But I'll continue. I have finding makeup work for makeup work requests and dealing with students asking for makeup work. I have this at a laughable 10 minutes a day. Again, very, very low in the estimates here. But I have discipline covered in my quantification that the teacher will spend at least on a very low end 10 minutes a day dealing with at least one referral, which is laughable some days, or at least spending 10 minutes somehow dealing with discipline outside the instructional time. So I also have here helping struggling students outside the class time, at a laughable 10 minutes. Again, many teachers dedicate a lot of time to helping students outside instructional periods. I have classroom maintenance slash, the classroom groundskeeping situation at a laughable 15 minutes a day, because some days there's a lot to do, some days there's not a lot to do. So I figured a good average would be 15 minutes a day. Disinfecting desks, doing things, just doing general maintenance that the groundskeeping of the building does not take care of. I've got also here inputting of grades. I have that set at 20 minutes per day. I know myself and many of my colleagues spend much more time than that dealing with putting in grades, especially dealing with late and makeup work. I have parent contacts here in my quantification set at 15 minutes, folks. This is again extremely low ball estimation. I know one parent phone call sometimes can take 15, 20, 30 minutes. This does not include the documentation of that. I also have IEP / 504 accommodations, dealing with that outside of class time in some way. I have that set at 15 minutes per day, folks. Again, very low estimate. I also have the documentation of that. I gave that 10 minutes of time, of the teacher's time, appropriately documenting documentation as we are instructed to do. Then we have the surprisingly large amount of time that most teachers find themselves dealing with the email mandate, and just dealing with all of the things, staying up to date on the going-ons of the building, and they deal with at least 30 minutes per day, dealing with responding to emails, and just generally staying in the know, folks. I have more. I have late work grading set at 15 minutes. I have planning assessments for future instruction. This is an ongoing process. This is a daily process for most of us. I gave it a 20-minute per day average. Again, some days maybe 0 minutes, other days maybe an hour of time would be required for that. So again, 20 minutes, conservative estimate. I also have planning of future instruction. This is obviously essential. I set that at 30 minutes per day. I'll go on here. I have daily meeting average in terms of the average time. If you look at how many meetings that teachers have to attend, I figured giving a daily 10 minutes to that would be fair, if not extremely conservative, given that most of us attend at least 30 to 50 minutes of meetings per week. I also have the general documentation credit here in my quantification, which is a mere 20 minutes per day to just account for all of the documentation that teachers are expected to do. That is not included here on my list, or is not really accounted for, just simply due to the conservative nature of the figures that I've used. Folks, if we total this up, and again, I'm forgetting things, it would be nice to have some help here on the journey, and have people help out with bringing things to my attention that I continually forget to mention. But just mentioning the things that I have here, folks, we have arrived at a grand total of 600 minutes per day, which obviously being 10 hours. This is unbelievable. That this is the low ball estimate, folks, of all of the things that teachers are expected to do. We could easily make a very strong argument that teachers have a 12-hour-a-day mandate on them, of just unbelievable, impossible multitasking. We know that the scientific research on the topic of multitasking is clear. The consensus is crystal clear, that anytime someone attempts to multitask, the quality with which they perform both tasks is immensely diminished. There's no such thing as true multitasking. Your attention is either on one thing 100%, or it's on the other thing 100%, or it is in just a general state of disarray. There's no true multitasking, folks. If we look at the ratio of the instructional time, being 270 minutes a day in my case, to the remainder of the 600 minutes being 330 minutes of non-instructional responsibilities. That comes out to a percentage, folks. 55%, and this is conservative. extremely conservative in some cases, I'm sure. 55% of teachers' responsibility is not instruction. That is absolutely insane. These are all conservative figures. There are things I'm forgetting. This doesn't cover nearly all of the grading time. We have not factored in any credit in terms of daily minutes we could get for the average amount of time per year spent on SLOs, other stuff like professional development, planning and pre-conferencing and post-conferencing for teacher observations, for the teacher evaluation systems. We haven't factored in anything like making copies. I mean, folks, think about the poor resident educators that are trying to perform all of those things that we've already discussed in a previous video. That hellhole of unbelievability that is the resident educator program, the four-year disaster, folks, that we've already talked about. This is unbelievable. It's enough to make me want to check my teacher mailbox, folks, and to attempt to also get some classroom supplies. But on the way, I realize that I have to use the restroom. And on the way to the restroom, there's someone who there's a student who has left something in my classroom and needs to get in to get it. So I have to put the restroom on hold. I'm not sure if I have all the correct classroom supplies, but I let the student in to get their item, and they leave with it. But I notice on the floor that there are several pencils and tiny shreds of paper and a few gum wrappers. So I begin to pick them up, and ding, there's email. There's an email on my laptop, and it's a parent asking about why their student has an F. Man, I really need to pee. Wow, the next class is almost here. I'm gonna need a cup of coffee here to stay awake the rest of the day here. I'm starting to get tired. The bell just rang. Oh my goodness, the next class is here. Wow, the students are already coming in the room. Can I go to the nurse? The phone rings, and so-and-so needs to be called out for testing, and I wasn't here yesterday, can I get the makeup work? And I turned this assignment in already, but it's a 0 in the grade book. And, well, child, that's because you didn't put your damn name on it. Folks, teachers are absolutely going insane. I can't even begin to express to you what a disaster education is. There's a eternal feedback loop that is happening where there's so many overqualified people that have escaped from the classroom who are setting up an oligarchy of support staff that can find no other purpose but to attempt to give teachers more and more things to do. Teachers are being treated like students now instead of the professionals that they are. This all is grounds for a nationwide, coast-to-coast unification of public educators. I am going to begin officially right now to call for it. We have a situation where public servants in the United States of America are psychologically, emotionally, and physically abused. The system, the powers in charge of setting up policy that would keep those public servants safe and able to perform their duties effectively. Those powers, those politicians have failed, and it is time now, folks, for a coast-to-coast class action, legal action, folks. We need to band together and file a class action lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Education, and this all needs to culminate in a grassroots movement to redesign public education, to be able to coexist with the 21st century, folks. Folks, I'm going to need to put on a blood pressure cuff. I'm going to need to reel it in for tonight. I'm glad to be back in range. If you're enjoying the content on the channel, please be sure to like and subscribe. I will catch you in the next rant. And as always, stay honest and stay safe. And this is the Renegade Teacher signing off.